Hey, this is Chris, and in this video I'm going to do a reaction to Layne Norton. He did a reaction to Max German, so I'm going to do a reaction to his video of Max German. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Today on What the Fitness, broccoli is bad for you.
Broccoli is man-made or natural?
Natural.
It's natural?
Yeah?
It's not. Broccoli is man-made.
But the tattoos all over his arms, those are natural, I assume.
It's a part of a cauliflower, and it's man-made. 50 years ago, we didn't have broccoli. See, every day you learn something,
50
right?
years
This
ago?
is what a lot of people don't understand about vegetables. Every single that we eat has been selectively bred to be very different from its original form. This is done through a process called crossbreeding, where you get two similar plants, grow them next to each other, and allow them to cross-pollinate.
Oh, this guy's a carnivore. What the f*** do you think they did with beef, bro? You think the cows out there are what we used to eat thousands of years ago? No, you dumbass. But you're fine with that kind of breeding while you eat your fatty cut of ribeye. But the cross-pollinating of plants, this is what you're worried about. Okay.
Why Max is saying that is because those vegetables, okay, was very toxic. And we're going to explain, okay? The beef that he's talking about, yes, they came from onox, the cows. So they did, so he is right that they were a lot different before. 10,000 years ago, cows were a lot different. They're actually onox, okay? So he's right in saying that. But you see, what he doesn't understand is that, like, we're just eating what approximates of the fat and protein. And so, like, the megafauna, for example, we're trying to eat. That's why sometimes people add butter or tallow or stuff, fat, to the meat, because it's very lean now a lot of the time. So they're trying to best approximate what we used to eat. The vegetables were very toxic. If you look at the ancestral carrots that he has up there, for example, Max, we'll go back right and look. You wouldn't get any nutrition out of that, okay? You'd get sick, you'd be poisoned straight away. Now they've crossbred them. You see, what they've done with the vegetables, okay, is they've made them less toxic. So now they're safe enough to put in supermarkets. They've detoxified them enough to make them safe enough to put in supermarkets. But don't tell me you could eat that carrot at the top corner, at the top of the screen. The ancestral carrot. No, you would have been very sick if you ate that. You got poisoned straight away. Now you don't, but that doesn't mean that's healthy now. And you can obviously remove a lot of the anti-nutrients by cooking it very well, the carrot. And even raw carrot isn't as bad as it would have been, of course not. Look, you can eat a carrot nowadays, but it's not healthy.
Selectively bred to be very different from its original.
But the cross-pollinating of plants, this is what you're worried about. Okay.
Now you might be wondering, why did we create vegetables? Why didn't we just eat the plants that are available in nature? There are 380,000 different identified species of plants.
I'm surprised he can recite a number that high. Good for you, Max.
All of these
Trying to be condescending or something.
plants taste so bad that nobody would eat them.
Except the hunter-gatherer tribes. Okay, well, anyways.
The reason they taste so bad is because every single plant has a long list of toxic compounds that the plant uses to defend itself.
Okay, that's enough. For people who haven't had basic toxicology, which I promise you, Nix hasn't had, the dosage makes the poison.
See, that's what people say. The dosage makes a poison. Yeah, it's not as bad as it used to be, so the dosage is a lot lower, yes. Like, basically, if you ate spinach every day, you mightn't get kidney stones straight away, but over a long period of time, that's going to cause problems. It's like not Chris Hemsworth, but his brother Liam Hemsworth, right? He was in hospital with kidney stones, okay, from eating a lot of green juices and all. I think he was a vegan, and he's eating a lot of green juices. But it took a long. It didn't happen from just one green juice. Because we've crossbred them and made them less toxic and all, plants, it's not going to cause a problem straight away. But over a long period of time, that can. And so the dose is very small. Yeah, he's right. But that doesn't mean that you should eat them. That's like saying, oh, it's okay to eat this food because it has a little bit of arsenic because there's a very small amount of arsenic. Or it's okay to eat this food because it has a little bit of mercury, but it's only a small amount. Yeah, it's not going to cause too much trouble if it's only a very small amount, but over time, you don't want to be eating that in the long run. That's why it's best to avoid as much as possible.
can take something that is very, very toxic, like cyanide, and there is an amount of it you can eat, and it will not negatively affect you. You can also take something like, I don't know, water. And if you take in too much of it, it will kill you. Because
Yes, if you take it too much of it, it'll kill you. But water itself, if it's a good source of water, that's not bad for you in a small amount. Anti-nutrients are bad for you in a small amount every day. Whether it's goitrogens that affect your thyroid, okay, like the broccoli that we're here talking about, the goitrogens in broccoli, and then what we talk about, oxalates, whether it's phytates, whatever it is, those anti-nutrients cause problems. So like we talk about the Liam Hemsworth about being in hospital kidney stones from eating green juices every morning when he kept doing that. Look, approximately 75% of all kidney stones are composed primarily of calcium oxalate. That's what they're composed of. You can reduce it, okay? Boiling markedly reduced soluble oxalate content by 30 to 87% and was more effective advanced steaming, which was 5 to 53%. Like, you can reduce it up to 87%, it might even be that much. And again, you're still going to get a little bit. And you can cook the vegetables and soak them and get a lot of the anti-nutrients out, yeah. That's true. It's not going to go away 100% though. But, and obviously the lack of nutrition in the vegetables as well, like in carrots, it hasn't got the preformed vitamin A, for example, what we talked about. It's got beta-carotene, which doesn't convert well. And even, some people don't even have the gene for converting it, so they can't convert at all. And DHA and all those other things, B12 and all. These things, like the anti-nutrients, there's no benefits of these plants. That's the whole point I'm making. But there's benefits of the meat, because there's essential nutrients. So yes, the cow is different than it used to be, but it's got the nutrition that you need. It's got the preformed nutrients.
the dosage makes the poison, and the dosage alone. Now, things that are more toxic because they do this at a very low dose. So, these compounds in plants, if they're so toxic, please explain to me why people who eat more fruits and vegetables live longer, have less risk for cardiovascular...
Live longer and less risk for cardiovascular disease. There's too many factors that, like, also there's this thing called healthy user bias. So that's the thing what he does, is he looks at these studies and he sees something, right? Healthy user bias, and there's too many confounding factors, confounding variables, okay? And obviously you can control for a bit, yes. But you have to really look into the deeper science or hard science, and not just look into nutrition science and say, look, oh, people that eat fruit and vegetables live longer. No, because what else do they do? Like, because people may hear, oh, red meat, fatty red meat is bad. Okay? Or maybe they even eat processed meat. So then they say, oh, avoid that. And they're people that are conscious of their health. So maybe they exercise a lot, maybe they sleep well enough, and they do all this other stuff, okay? Maybe they reduce stress, meditate, or whatever else, okay? And they get fresh air and all. So they're doing all healthy stuff. And then they eat fruits and vegetables, because they heard that fruits and vegetables are healthy from mainstream media. So then because they do that, then they're healthy, so they live longer. And then other people that eat meat are typically people that eat meat in a burger, and then there's like a bun burger with all the bread on it, and they also drink alcohol, and they maybe smoke cigarettes and all. So that's healthy user bias, because people typically that eat meat that is unhealthy, they're not conscious of their health. Maybe like he can't sit here and say that, like, oh, that they live longer because they eat fruits and vegetables. Too many confounding factors. What else do they do in their life?
Disease, lower risk of pretty much every cancer you can possibly imagine, and actually like lower risk of other diseases like kidney disease and a bunch of other things. And this isn't like one or two studies. This is literally every study that looks at this. These toxic compounds that you're talking about aren't even close to toxic in the amounts that they're being consumed in. So broccoli today isn't what we ate, whatever, however many years ago. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the research on this stuff is not having people eat ancient plants. They're having them eat regular fruits and vegetables that are in the store. People get healthier when they eat these things. But since you're a carnivore idiot, you have to try and justify why fruits and vegetables are bad for you, because you don't want to think about your own mortality with your LDL cholesterol over 500, which, by the way...
LDL cholesterol over 500. Now, I think he understands this, okay? So I assume he does. But LDL cholesterol, I think he understands that LDL cholesterol isn't cholesterol. LDL is a lipoprotein that carries cholesterol. So he says LDL cholesterol. The two separate things. LDL is a lipoprotein, okay? Low density lipoprotein that carries the cholesterol, but it carries other stuff like protein, triglycerides, what I talked about before. But it's not cholesterol. It's a lipoprotein. It carries cholesterol because cholesterol can't float in the blood on its own. It needs something to be carried in, so the lipoprotein carries it. It's only if the LDL is damaged that's a problem. LDL itself isn't a problem. So I think he understands that though. But just the way he's saying it, LDL cholesterol. He should just say LDL if LDL is over, not LDL cholesterol. Because then people start thinking that cholesterol is bad. LDL itself isn't even bad itself.
The hunter-gatherer tribes that these carnivores always invoke, like the Hadza, and they ate mostly meat. Do you know, Max, what their LDL cholesterol was on average? Under 50. And yet people like you will be sitting there with LDL over 300 like, nah, this is good for me. No, you are drastically raising your risk for cardiovascular, but you care more about your carnivore identity, which is why it's literally in your Instagram name, than you do about the actual data. And I could point out tons of compounds in meat that are toxic, but not in the dosages found in meat. Oh, but wait, those are, what does Paul Stoll say? Oh, well, those are hormetic. Yeah, how convenient that the...
Okay, well, let's see if he mentions one.
Chemicals, the toxic compounds that you like in meat are somehow having this hormetic effect, but the
you like meat. Like as if people eat a carnivore diet just because they like the taste of meat on their own. Like people like fruits, for example, but we know we can get all the sugar we need because our body makes it endogenously. And the point that he made about the Hadza are eating a lot of lean meat. What we're trying to do is best approximate what we used to eat hundreds of thousands of years ago and millions of years ago, and not what the Hadza are eating, because the Hadza, they're eating very lean meats now. So we're trying to best approximate what we used to eat. That's why we add, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're adding butter to the, we're not just eating like red meat or something, we're adding butter to the meats to make it fattier. So you sometimes see people eating a piece of butter, or just beef fat in general, or stuff like ghee. People add suet to the diet, okay? Even people eat a bit of tallow from the jar, okay? To increase the fat intake, because that's what best approximates what we used to eat. The Hadza are just eating meat, but it's a lot of very lean meat that they're eating nowadays. And on top of that, they're eating like honey and raw milk. And the raw milk obviously hasn't got too much saturated fat in it. And the honey, obviously, that's full of sugar. So their diet is lower in fat than what we're trying to approximate, what we're trying to eat. You want fatty meat as the primary part of your diet, and the Hadza aren't eating that fatty of meats nowadays. So you want to eat you want to best approximate what we used to eat, and that was fatty meat, okay? Meat with a lot of blubber on it, okay? Like what we used to eat, the megafauna and all. And when they looked at autopsy data on Alaskan Inuit in the 1950s on a high carnivore-based diet, showed a cardiovascular disease incidence of only 1% compared to roughly 18% for other Americans.
Compounds in vegetables, those are the ones that are toxic. We call this asymmetrical application of logic, meaning they invoke a specific line of logic when it fits their bias, and then they discard that as soon as it doesn't fit their bias, because they are so brain dead by their own echo chamber that they can't think outside of the little tiny box they put themselves into.
Broccoli contains compounds such as lectins and oxalates, which quite literally bind to our cells and cause inflammation. This is why vegetables still taste bitter.
If only we had human randomized controlled trials where they feed fruits and vegetables and look at levels of inflammation. Oh wait, they do, and it lowers inflammation. Max, do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Like even says here, optimal intake of fruits and vegetables for maintaining long-term health are uncertain. Like there's no proper, and look, it's a questionnaire, a baseline, and updated every 2 to 4 years. So really, what he's doing is like conclusions, higher intakes of were associated. Like if you look into like coronary heart disease, there's a risk of like 8% lower risk, 3% total cancer risk. Also, it was an observational study, that one, which can show association but cannot definitely prove that fruit and vegetable intake causes the risk reduction. But we know by what red meat and all this stuff, and by eating a low carb diet, by cutting out the sugars that you don't need, and by eating fatty red meat for the essential nutrients that we need, about the benefits. So what he's shown doesn't really tell you anything by looking at those studies. Look at the hard sciences. You can look into these studies and say, oh, that's interesting, but at the end of the day, that shouldn't be your own thing. And again, he doesn't understand really about the anti-nutrient, and the anti-nutrients actually block the absorption. It even blocks the absorption in the animals itself. They looked at that when they looked at, like, for example, when people ate like corn tortillas with oysters, that had actually blocked the absorption of some of the zinc in the oysters from the corn, the anti-nutrients in the corn. So when he's saying about the anti-nutrients, it mightn't cause like kidney stones straight away, it might block the absorption of certain nutrients in the food straight away. So if you want to get started on a carnivore diet or a low carb diet, then DM me the word ready on Instagram at healthiernow.chris, and we can set up a free call together and see where you're at, whether you're starting a carnivore or a low carb diet, or whether you're in the middle of doing one and you're hitting some sticking points and you want to get to the next level. Whether it's something like whether like there's fat loss stalling or whatever it is that you're struggling with, okay? We can do that. So if you want more of this content, then make sure to like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll say so.